Good morning and welcome to Morning Scoop for Wednesday, February 3rd. This is your daily Buckeye fix. I'm Tom Orr. The Minnesota game is in 211 days, the game against Michigan in 297 days. Today is National Signing Day for college football, and this was originally going to be a show about that, but then late Tuesday morning, arguably the most impactful one-sentence press release since Michael Jordan's I'm Back came out. The EA Sports account tweeted simply, "For those who have never stopped believing, college football is coming back." We almost never have multiple guests on for the Morning Scoop, but for an event this significant, we are going local TV, 3 inches of snow, team coverage. Buckeye Scoop beat reporter Tony Gerdeman and former OSU All-American and captain Kirk Barton join me this morning. Tony, first of all, what was your reaction to this monumental piece of news?
About time, but also first it's joy, and then you're like, why have you been gone so long? But I was very happy, and then you immediately go to Twitter to just share your joy with everybody else, and you see everybody else is as happy as you are. And, you know, I haven't played it in a long time, but you never really get that far away from it. It's still, when you've played it for so many hours, so many hours, you don't ever really get too far away from it. So it was a happy moment, and then you're thinking, now I'm eventually going to have to find time for this. And that's where the concern starts to roll in.
Yeah, I have not owned a video game system since a PlayStation 2, and it was like, oh, well, I guess the good news is by the time this game's out, PS5s will be easier to get. So that I guess that's good. Kirk, you have a little different perspective on this than most people who just played the game because you were actually in it. So what do you remember about the first time you turned on the game and there you were on the screen?
Well, I remember my freshman year in 2003, I wasn't good enough to be on the game. And Ohio State was awesome that year because they had Maurice Clarett was in the game. It would have been his sophomore year before he got kicked off the team. So that Ohio State team was actually awesome. You know, Gamble was like a 99, Maurice Clarett was like a 95, and then I didn't make the team. So then my redshirt freshman year, I'm in the game, and I am the worst player on the entire team. I'm 62 overall, which is terrible, and I'm behind guys that I knew, frankly, guys like Tim Schafer that I knew I was better than, like a bunch of guys that I thought sucked, and they had better ratings than me. So that gave me a nice little chip on my shoulder because I was so damn mad. And then the next year, I remember we had Al Johnson as our strength coach, and I fudged my height and weight to 6'7", 325, which, I was probably 6'5", 310, because I wanted to be bigger on the game. So I literally faked my height and weight so I'd be bigger on the EA Sports game, and it worked. So it was good. But I loved playing it. I'm just like everybody else. Like in the 06 version, when it was like Troy was a starting quarterback and we played Texas, like we had San Antonio, like we had a really good team on that game. And then the next year when Troy was a senior, our team was awesome on that game again. So it's fun when you're in the game, but it's more fun when your team's awesome. So you can just play as them all the time and win a lot. But I'm excited. I'm just like everybody else. I just can't wait to see the features and see how it all gets fleshed out.
Now, are you and the other guys on the team like always playing as Ohio State, or are you playing other teams, or was it just like you always want to play Ohio State? It would be sacrilege to play as anyone else.
I always played as Ohio State, but I'd also make a team because I always love creative team stuff. I do that in I do it on NHL 21. I make the Las Vegas Death Row Centurion. That's my name, my team. So I customize the jerseys, and I love doing that kind of stuff. I've done that on every game. I always try to make my own team. Like on NBA 2K20, I made a scoop team, and like it had like Jerry Lucas, and I made Greg Oden like all 99s, and we played at the Schottenstein Center. There's a big scoop logo on it because I have too much time on my hands. But I like playing as Ohio State, but it's kind of fun when you can edit your schedule so you're not always playing in the same Big Tens. You go play in the SEC and go play Clemson and those schools, so you can kind of see the other stadiums that they put a lot of effort into.
Now, the game originally disappeared because of concerns over name, image, and likeness rights for the players involved. Because, even though it didn't say Terrell Pryor, everyone knew that QB2 on the Buckeyes on College Football 2010 was Terrell Pryor. So, Kirk, you have an interesting perspective on this because you were actually part of the settlement for that case. Can you sort of explain how, what you had to do and how that all went down?
Yeah, I got the letter for the settlement, and I basically had to fill in the years that I was on the game. So it kind of sucked I wasn't on it in 03 because that would have counted. But so like 04, 05, 06, and my number, and state I was born in or something. Like you had to fill out the columns, and then you mailed it back in. Or actually, I think I did it. You could do it online, and then they got back to you and hey, your settlement is $3,500, and I'm like, I'll take that. But then the only thing that was cooler than that was when I was out of my rookie year, and my girlfriend at the time, my ex-girlfriend, goes to the mailbox, and she opens a letter I got from EA Sports, and I was like, "What's this?" And she's like, "Oh my God, we hit the lottery!" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And I got a $10,000 check for being in Madden that I had no idea I was getting, and I was like, "This is great. I can get used to being in these games." But sadly, I only lasted a couple more years in the league, but that was a nice, easy check that you're just not counting on getting. So I could say that went towards funding the scoop.
There you go. Thank you, EA Sports.
Thank you, EA.
Now, I'm going to be talking to a sports law attorney about the NIL piece of this on a show later on this week. You can look for that Friday morning. But, I mean, how many of your teammates, I mean, you're talking about some bigger numbers there. You see the idea floated a lot on Twitter, like, well, if they just give every player a copy of the game, like most of those guys will just sign over their NIL rights just for the right to get a copy of the game and to be in the game. Is that sort of, when you were a player, is that sort of what, would people have done that if that was an option?
I think outside of maybe a handful of guys that are more valuable than the rest, like the Tim Tebow's, the Justin Fields, like most of us would just be happy to get the game because, if I say, oh, don't use my image and likeness, then it's like I talked about with Gert, like they're just going to put you in there anyways. Like they'll edit it, someone will make a roster edit and you'll be in there anyways and you won't have the free game. So I think most guys would have done that because, there's very few at the top that actually have any sort of value when it comes to that, like like Justin Fields, the high-end quarterbacks, high-end skill guys. But most linemen, I mean, generally people don't care about us, so we're just happy to get whatever we can get. So a free copy of the game saves us $60 and wait in line at GameStop. And honestly, if EA Sports was really smart, they would give it out like 3 or 4 days early to the kids, and then like, oh, you get it early before everybody. And of course, it'd be on eBay in about 1 second. But I digress. But I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, and you do not need to run down to GameStop just yet to camp out for the game. They are just starting development on it right now. So there were estimates it could be like 2 to 3 years before it's actually in stores. And sorting out NIL is obviously a big part of that. But while they're getting all that stuff sorted out, Tony, like what would you like to see them include in this version of the game that has not been in previous editions?
It's been so long since I played the 2014 edition. I just remember recruiting being really hard in the latter editions. And now you're thinking, well, the transfer portal is going to be in there. And so there's a lot of minutia that I would like to see. Yes, you can play with the minutia, or you can turn the sliders of the minutia down a bit and make things a little bit easier. I am not looking forward to the buzz down to see if my player just got ejected for targeting, things like that. The game should come with an extra controller, I think, because something is going to break if I get somebody ejected for just, diving at them and cleaning somebody's clock. And now I'm getting somebody ejected. Maybe the option to overrule the idiots in the sky. How about that? That would be, although everybody's talking about these microtransactions, I wonder if that would be one of them. You have to pay something to overrule the guys in the press box. But I just, there's so much you could do. I would just like the ability to maybe tame down some of it because from like the 2005 to 2010 or so, I think recruiting was perfect. And I would just do Sims and just do the recruiting. And then it just got so intricate that it made things longer than actually playing the game. So maybe just ease it back for some of us and just some sliders, something like that. But the transfer portal is going to be in there. Do you can you recruit from the transfer portal? It's just going to be another recruiting thing because once they're in there, then you can contact them. I saw somebody on Twitter mention recruiting a couple of classes at a time, which is like, no way, because that's how it is now. And now try doing that in the game where, you're basically doing two classes at a time, and you get somebody quarterback committed in 2024 and your 2023 quarterback is like, I don't want you now. And so that would be a little bit too much for me.
Kirk, what about a modifiable postseason system where, yes, there is the standard 4-team playoff, but you also have the option to change it to 8 teams or 16 teams? Like that would be my pick. I don't know for licensing reasons if the college football playoff will let them do that, but what about you?
I think that would be great because I would want to make every game outside in like Wisconsin or further north. Like I'd make them play in like Ottawa and Toronto and make the SEC come up where it's freezing cold. Honestly, the one thing that I really want to see in the game more than anything is bagmen, just because I think I'd make it more realistic. Just because, and I think you should be able to pick the type of bag, whether it be Louis Vuitton or McDonald's or Chick-fil-A, that you fill the money up with and hand out to the recruits. I think that'd make it a little bit more realistic. But feature-wise, they got to bring back Create a Team. So I want to make Team Scoop, and I want to be able to import the logo and put on the helmet, and make Tony Gerdeman like a running back that runs like a 4.3. Big Tom Orr, Randy Moss. Make Bill Green like the orange kicker with white hair. Like I think that'd all be like perfect. And then we could make like Nevada Buck, instead of his head having a helmet, it could just be a giant styrofoam Nevada thing, like a mascot. I think it would be unbelievable. And Givler could be the coach. Perfect.
The last time they made this game was 2013. So what is the biggest thing that we've missed out on by not having it since then? Tony, what moment between this, the end of the 2013 season and now have you thought, man, I wish I could play that out on EA?
I think Rondale Moore, just having him as part of the game, because that dude was a living video game guy for the one season that we got to see him. So maybe him, not having him in a video game is kind of unfortunate, because he was the living embodiment of it, especially in that Ohio State game. And I think the advent of the playoffs, because you could do the playoffs, you could create a playoff in the later games, and having that in there now. But the 2014 Ohio State team and beyond, not having those in there, I think is unfortunate for a lot of people, and not getting to see the full strength of what those teams were. But yeah, just for me, when I think of like which player would you have liked to have had in there, it's Rondale Moore. And then maybe somebody way down second, but below him.
Kirk, what about you?
Oh, if they had classic teams, if you could do like a classic player, like the 2016 version of Isaiah Prince at Penn State, I think that would have been a really good one, just because our fan base, it was so kind to him after that game. I don't know. I think Deshaun Watson would have been ridiculous on the game, but it's something that they've missed is, they started doing the microtransactions. It's funny because on 14 they had like the ultimate team stuff, because you could be like, you get like Troy Smith and Heisman winners and stuff on your ultimate team. But it's going to be interesting to see if they do like a kind of like a story mode thing. Like the new Madden has like a story mode where you play and you pick your college and then you get drafted, or if they had something like that, or what other, the one big thing I think that would be huge is if they do, and this is probably going to be really tough to do, but like a fully fleshed out online league, like you can do on Madden. You can do a league with 32 teams that are all controlled by users, trades, drafts, multiple seasons. Like, because, if you could have 127 users control each team and recruit against each other. Now, it sounds like that'd be ridiculous or hard to do, but I think that'd be nutty. Even if you could just have like 10 people in a league, each one picks, someone from a conference or whatever, and recruit against each other. I think that'd be really fun, because that's something that's a newer thing, is doing these leagues online, and I think they're a blast.
All right, if we do a scoop league, I'm calling dibs on UTEP right now. No, hands off the minors; they are mine.
That's the fun one, is when you get to flip a program from being terrible to being a juggernaut that no one expects. Like I don't even know who I would pick. I don't want like the Long Beach State like dirtbags. Something like that would be great.
Well, that is a very smooth transition to my last question for both of you guys. Your greatest achievements in one of the previous editions of the game. Tony, I know we've talked about this on another podcast. So speaking of taking a terrible Texas team and turning them into a juggernaut, share your story of EA Sports glory.
Yeah, probably not just my EA Sports glory, probably my crowning achievement in life, sadly. is I took North Texas, and this is all simming, but terrible North Texas and pitiful Denton, Texas, the Mean Green. I started a dynasty with them, and the first couple of years were pretty rough. Things got better, just all simming and recruiting, but eventually got to the point where I ended up winning, I believe, 144 games in a row. Got invited to the Big 12, and when you get invited to a conference, you can pick the team to leave. So I booted Texas, University of Texas Austin out of the Big 12. I said, "I'll see you later, Mac Brown," and because Texas came after me, they wanted me to coach them. I'm like, "No, I'm pretty happy with my North Texas Mean Green here, and if anybody wants me, the Big 12 can come calling, and I'll bring everybody with me." And that's what we did, and we just kept winning and winning. I don't know what snapped the loss. I don't know if I ever did, or maybe it was time. It was the next July, and it was time to get the next game again, and then you move on. But there's so many great memories of just even like I knew a mom and pop store in Hilliard that would sell the game a couple of days early. And back then, you weren't supposed to sell it early; you would get in trouble. But they didn't know any better, so I could get it early, and then you just brag to people on forums like, "Yeah, I got it," and then people get angry at you. But there's the time where you get it and you start playing it and you edit as many teams as you can, but also, you'd send away for the memory card, and that would take a couple of weeks. And that's when the dynasty finally fully begins, is once you get that memory card with all of the rosters. And it's just, it'll be good to have that back, the anticipation, and then it's finally here. Now you can do it. And where did the last 12 hours go?
I like the fact that this is all happening long enough ago that you have to do this by mail, like in some kind of correspondence course for college. Kirk, any particularly memorable moments for you on EA, either playing as yourself or playing with one of your teams or something else?
I can completely relate to Gerd because I know exactly what story he's talking about in Hilliard off Rome Road. So I used to do the same thing. Those guys were the plug, man. It was like dealing drugs. They just out the back door, give me your $60 and here's your game, and you just sneak away like you're doing something bad. But oh God. So I used to have a portable TV in 02 that was this big white monstrosity that had like a VHS player. You could like take it in like a car, like a van, and plug it in the cigarette lighter. And I took it to camp at Ohio State and at Michigan, and for the Big 33. Like the thing went with me everywhere. And I brought my PlayStation with me, and I played NCAA 02. And it was funny because my team was the Miami Hurricanes in 01. So I had Shockey, Portis. I mean, Najee Davenport was a fullback on that game, and he was ungodly out of the backfield to throw the ball to, because he was basically like a tailback, he was like the fastest fullback ever. He was like Larry Centers. And I ran the table. Nobody could beat me, and people would get so angry because I threw to Shockey almost like every play. It was unbelievable. Shockey, Andre Johnson, Portis, Najee Davenport. That was like the bevy of my offense. And I had like Mount McKinney. I mean, it was such a great team, but nobody could stop me. A lot of people take Florida because they had Grossman and Jabbar Gaffney, who were like Grossman was like a 98 and Gaffney was like a 95. He was like a redshirt sophomore, but his stats were ridiculous. But I locked him up because I had Mike Rumpf and Phil Buchanan and Vilma and DJ Williams. Like, I mean, it was a loaded squad. It was cool. So running the table camp circuit 02 and then getting the Ohio State offer at the end was like the Ohio State offer was almost as close to running the table against all those guys.
You think they were related? Was it related?
What it might have been because I was so proficient, and like I beat down, like at advanced camp, man, it was like, Brady Quinn, all the Glenville guys, and I was beating them to death with the 01 Hurricanes. And I was like, man, and then of course Ohio State played them the next year in 02, but I don't know. It's a fun way to pass the time because you're so stressed out at those camps because you want to earn an offer, and beating people at NCAA 02 was pretty fun. So that was probably my best memory.
Winning with 2001 Miami's not an achievement. Larry Coker did that. Come on, anyone
Dude,
can
I'm
do
telling
that.
you, man, that was my squad, man. The Canes. I loved it.
And then you parlay that into a job at UT San Antonio. That is the dream right there.
That's right.
Well, thank you guys both for joining us. As I mentioned, we will have another show on this a little later on in the week with a sports law attorney to talk about kind of the name, image, and likeness rights angle to this, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff that is going to be a major change to college football coming in the next couple of years. I don't think people quite understand the significance of that just yet. We're going to have an expert to talk about that. And also make sure you check out Buckeye Scoop today. We have, it is National Signing Day. That is not quite the national holiday that it used to be, but it is still a significant day. And Ohio State is chasing a couple names to know. So make sure you check out Buckeye Scoop for all of that. Also, make sure you check out all of our great podcasts. We got them on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, Spreaker. Just search Buckeye Scoop to find all of those. Tony and I just dropped a new episode of Buckeye Weekly yesterday. And we're talking to Ryan Day a little later on today. So we'll have some new stuff to talk about with that as well. So thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow.